Taliban. They don't get the full range of information we have, but we give them enough to act in time and space to try to prevent these attacks.
And Oren Lieberman joins me now, along with CNN White House correspondent John Harwood. Gentlemen, good evening. Oren, I'm going to start with you. The White House, the Pentagon, all bracing for potentially more terror attacks. What will these evacuations look like between now and Tuesday?
First, it's important to note that they're ongoing. President Joe Biden made that clear. General Frank McKenzie made that clear. And in fact, I'm looking at a flight tracking website on a monitor right next to me. There is just a flight that looks like it landed at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany that took off from Afghanistan. So the flights continue. The mission continues. But as I pointed out there in that story, the U.S. commanders there have asked the Taliban to expand the security corridor, to close down some of the roads leading to the airport to prevent a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. They've already, in light of the threats that we've heard in the last few days from ISIS-K and from others, increased the security presence at the airport by shifting troops over to security. Crucially, though, the evacuation continues. At some point, it will start to transition from full evacuation to withdrawal of U.S. forces, and that's simply inevitable as we get closer to that end date. But the evacuation, as I said, it continues for U.S. citizens and others.
John Harwood, the president had a clear message for the terrorists, vowing to make these attackers pay, and he said this.
We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in the moment of our choosing.
Listen, I know they have to be concerned at the White House tonight about escalation when they're trying to get out of there.
Well, I think, Don, first of all, ISIS-K is not a conventional military force, and so they're going to strike us where they can regardless. And I think the administration is going to act to degrade their capability whenever it can. However, there's only 5 days left in this operation. It sounds as if it's going to take a while to both devise those operational plans the president said. And when he said a time and place of our choosing, I think that was an indication it's not likely to happen immediately. They're going to be completely focused, I think, for the next 5 days on getting as many Americans and close Afghan allies as they can out of Afghanistan.
Oren, we are learning that coalition forces have conducted a series of controlled explosions within Kabul's airport, or in the area at least. What can you tell us about that? What are they destroying?
Well, we don't know specifically yet. The U.S. military hasn't put out any information about that. It was actually the Taliban who said that it was U.S. forces who destroyed equipment there. And we know, having listened to Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby, that the U.S. has equipment there and was considering destroying it. There are a number of assets like Chinooks, like Apaches, like aerial defense systems. All of that, instead of leaving it there or trying to get it out, it could be destroyed, and there's other equipment there, and the commanders on the ground there can make the decision whether this is worth taking home, or whether it's worth saving that space for evacuees perhaps, or whether it's worth simply destroying it.
The press secretary, John, has said, Jen Psaki said today that President Biden has never reconsidered the August 31st deadline. What does that tell you about how he sees the tragic events in the context of his commitment to get troops out?
Look, I think nearly everything that's happened in the last few weeks, Don, has reinforced the president's commitment and belief that getting out of Afghanistan is the right thing to do. Because the 20-year effort to build up an Afghan security force and build up an Afghan government failed. Those forces collapsed very quickly once the United States began withdrawing. And I think the belief that keeping more and more American troops in harm's way in Afghanistan is something that simply is not worth it from a cost-benefit analysis. It's not worth the lives of those soldiers. This is obviously the worst nightmare for Joe Biden. This was the worst day of his presidency. He did not want to have to leave having lost American lives at the end of this mission. And, you know, for 2 weeks, you had 100,000 people taken out without American casualties, without any mass casualty events. That, of course, period is now over, and I think he's determined to, as we indicated earlier, get as many people out as he can by August 31st, if there are Americans left afterwards, to try to figure out through special operations or other means to get them out. The White House acknowledges that there will be deserving Afghan allies who will not make it out because they have narrowed the focus of this mission to put the highest priority, of course, on Americans. And it is a heartbreaking way to end this war, but I think the president's committed above all that it needs to end.
John.